Hello, my name is Tobin. I am the host and producer of a podcast called Tobin Tonight. Yes, very egotistical. Call your podcast after yourself. The Sanity. Anyway, I named it just Tobin Tonight because I couldn't think of a better name at the time. I have thought of more important and cooler names, but it's too late to change it. I decided to make this video, just as a testing video, I guess, because I don't know how confident I am in these videos. Because this mug, I don't like this mug. There's a lot of better faces out there than this. That is not me picking on myself. Yeah, it is. Sorry, I have a bit of a cough too, so you might hear that throughout the video. There are better mugs out there, and I'm sure if I gave you this exact same message with someone that's a little bit more better looking, it might get a lot more views or attention. However, being an ugly piece of, maybe some people will see past the picture and like the message or appreciate the message. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't make a difference. Maybe I'm rambling on here. Anyway, the reason I'm making this video is because I want to speak to people that maybe feel a little bit in a slump, maybe feel like they failed, maybe they're just looking for some advice. Again, I'm not the best person to give advice. I don't know why I say that. Maybe it's just something that you find a little bit more relatable. Because again, if you have a celebrity telling you or a commercial telling you, hey, don't give up, you can do anything. You're like, of course you can. You got paid. I don't know. I look at a lot of those Peloton commercials and think, great, yeah, I'd love to be on a Peloton. Oh, $75 a month? No, thank you. And for like 3 years, I won't use that after 2. I won't use it after 5 minutes. Anyway, so the reason I'm making this video is hopefully that you can relate to things that I'm saying and that you feel like, hey, that stuff happened to me, and you don't feel so bad. And in a way, I'm making this video just to see if people will respond, and so that I can kind of look at it and say, oh, there are people out there that shared that same story. I will cough again. I love how my voice just goes like, I will cough again, because you can sense that's coming. Anyway, so I'll start off by saying that I went to Carleton University. I got a degree in communications. At first, I went to Memorial University down here in Newfoundland because, again, if you're a Newfoundlander, where are you going? Kona. Kona. That's it. You go to Mun or you go to Kona. Or anywhere else. I don't know. Academy Canada. Depends on what you are. I was never that great with my hands or in trade, so I was a little bit of a book smart person. Anyway, I went to Mun. There was nothing there for me. They were just starting a communications program, and by year 2, it was, hey, good job, Tobin. Go do electives. And I was like, I don't think that's how this works. Sorry, I'm going to cough throughout this video a lot. I should have waited or done this earlier. But I just transferred to Carleton. It was in Ottawa. I did a communications program. Loved Ottawa. Loved the weather. Didn't like the winters. But I got a lot of experience there in terms of just interacting with people, kind of meeting people, making new friends, having a new fresh start, which was something that I really needed because in high school, once you kind of get a reputation, not saying like, oh, as a bad person, just someone labels you as either geeky, nerdy, or something that you could have did in grade 6, and they stick with it in terms of labeling you that way. There's a lot of cliques, and you don't get to mingle, and whatever you are, and it sucks because you can never find your way out. So, and a fresh start was well needed. But anyway, went to Carleton, did communications, got my BA, and then after that I thought, cool, graduated, let's find a job. I got lucky because they had a summer internship with Secor. Awesome place to work. Not really up my field in terms of what my knowledge of things are. I was thinking more of a PR of a hockey team or a PR of an entertainment business or something that was up here. But still, great place to work. Really liked my time there in terms of, your first real big job from not doing refereeing work, though I do love to referee soccer, ball hockey. Awesome. It is awesome. Love it. Anyway, so then I kept on looking for work, and I said, okay, I'm done school. This is going to be it. But then a sports journalism program came up at Loyalist, and I was never into news. I was never into politics, but sports. I was into sports. Um, so I did that a year program. Got to interview Jordan Subban. Got to cover Loyalist Lancer games, and it was sorry, it was really fun. It was really cool experience to do. So once I graduated there, you have these internship programs. So I did my internship at CTV Ottawa and Ottawa Sun. Usually you only stick with one because it's supposed to be, I think it's, yeah, 4 weeks. Not really enough time for an internship, people. No two companies, 4 months, 4 weeks, I should say. Uh, Not enough real time to really do much. At CTV Ottawa, it was like my very first internship. I didn't really know what to do in the sense of, do I come in and pitch ideas? Do I just kind of sit in the back and learn? And it was really conflicting because the guy that was kind of being my mentor, I didn't know whether I should ask him a whole bunch of questions because then it kind of looks like you knew nothing. You didn't do anything at school. Or do you kind of sit there and go like, yeah, I know that kind of stuff, but I'll let you do it and learn on the fly. Um, some people, it all depends on the dynamic. Um, I ran into a little bit of trouble with CTV Ottawa in the sense of it just wasn't a good fit. Again, like I said, my mentor at times questioned if I was interested, and that was really insulting to me because I'm just trying to, be nice, stay out of people's way. But I'll give you the biggest thing that I think, kind of pissed people off at CTV Ottawa, I guess. Um, Basically, putting it, I would stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, just trying to come up with ideas, or just, waiting on things of, how can I make an impact here at CTV Ottawa, and the what do you call it, emails or the communication between me and the person that's kind of mentoring me, they would happen like late at, not really late at night, but like 8 or 9 at night, and then they, you got to get up then really early to get yourself down to CTV Ottawa. Um, so there'd be some nights that I'd be staying up till 10 or 11 waiting for an email to basically say, hey, come in at 8 tomorrow. And I was thinking like, geez, now I got to get up at 6 just to make sure I'm down there at 8. So there was this one day that kind of happened. In particular, this one day, I got to interview Brooke Henderson. Now, this was before Brooke Henderson was the golfer that we know she is. She was kind of on the peak, on the rise. We go to do the interview. Interview goes fine. I'm well awake for the whole interview. But on the way back, I fell asleep because, like I said to you prior, I was pretty much up all night writing questions, trying to make my first impression on these people. And I come back and I was kind of, ripped at. Not face to face because, no one would do that. Even though that's how you should do it. It was pretty much all, did you hear this and did you hear that? And like whispers. And I was told like, hey, I heard that you fell asleep during the interview. I didn't fall asleep during the interview because that would make for really bad TV. Can you imagine? Brooke, how did you win your... Oh, that's great. No, interview went fine. It was that I kind of fell asleep in the car ride because I was so tired. And I thought, that's okay. That's not a big deal. Apparently the driver wanted a talking buddy, and he was upset that he didn't have a talking buddy. Completely understood, but you usually should tell that to me, not... Anyway. So I was let go from CTV Ottawa. And then, again, I had to do another couple of weeks of internships. So I ended up going to Ottawa Sun. Way better experience. Got to cover baseball, got to write some articles, got to cover the soccer team at the time. And the only downfall really with Ottawa Sun is that my boss was in Toronto because he was writing for the Toronto Sun as well. So I never really got to have a lot of contact with them. And I guess the biggest thing there is if you guys are going to ever work at or do internships, make sure that your boss actually knows you were in the building or can see your work so he can give you a good reference. Because if they don't really see or know what you're doing, they can't really give you a solid reference. So anyway, I did those 2 internships, and both of those guys kind of recommended that I go to Algonquin's radio program. I did, and it was the worst thing ever. No, it's not really the worst thing ever, but I will say that, you're coming from a university experience to where they accept people right out of high school. And when you have the university and college experience already, and then you're letting people in off the street of high school with their diplomas, it's not the same feel. So there's a little bit of conflict there with just people in the class and whatnot. But in terms of the program, it was really, for the most part, it was okay. I learned a lot there. That was really when I got a lot more hands-on experience with radio. Um, in a nutshell, I can say that the program taught me how to edit, how to produce, how to write things. We had teachers like Dan Polanen, who I speak highly of, because if I'm being honest, and hopefully if he ever sees this, he's not too mad, but I I hated him in my first year just because you weren't getting away with shit. He didn't seem to be a lot of a comedian type of fella. He didn't really seem to understand me in general. Um, but you would go to him and you'd say, like, can you listen to this piece? And he would rip you a new one. And you thought, like, what the fuck? Like, I thought this was good. But by the second year, I I loved the guy. I did. Because he would pick apart everything, but he wasn't picking apart to pick at you. He wanted to make you a better journalist, a better broadcaster, um, overall just a better at your job, which great. I honestly I find that teachers that are very relaxed are very easygoing. They're great teachers. Don't get me wrong. They're very open and friendly, but sometimes they don't really pay attention to your work. Where a teacher that's going to be a hard ass or a little bit hard on you, they're just looking out because they see potential in you or they just want you to do good. And you might not see that until like 3 or 4 years later. You might think that like, oh, this guy is always on me. He's always being an ass. Why does he hate me? He doesn't hate you as much as he just hates the fact that you're not getting it or that you're not reaching your full potential. Um, so those teachers I really enjoyed. I probably hate them in the moment or hate them for the years that I have them, but years later I will say I like those teachers. I probably might never sit down and have lunch with them because, again, just the personalities don't maybe always clash. Maybe, again, you do. Who knows? Um, but anyway, speaking with people that have either failed or tried, I'm just telling you these stories because, again, nothing sticks. You can kind of look and beat yourself up. Like, I bet myself up for a while about the CTV Ottawa thinking, like, oh, this is my fault, or the exact same way with, I'll get into this story as well. With the Algonquin, we do internships. Now, we do them in year 2. I got lucky in year 1 to land an internship with CBC in Newfoundland back here. And it wasn't anything signed in paper. It was just them being friendly and them being nice, them being kind of Newfoundland, I guess, and saying, yeah, we'll let you in for a couple of days. You can do a couple streeters. And I did. And then I've never heard contact from that guy ever again. So I don't know what happened there. But those sometimes are the breaks. I landed in the second year when we actually get to do our internships at Global Toronto. I also landed one at TSN, but I chose Global Toronto. And here's why. Because I know people are going to say, Brian, you love TSN. Why didn't you go to TSN? TSN had Mark Masters, and I love Mark Masters. I've had Mark Masters on my podcast. Now, this is before the podcast, but Mark Masters was the guy that covers the Leafs. He was the guy doing hockey. He was everywhere, and I knew if I went to if I went to TSN, I wasn't going to get that shot. I wanted a place that I could do things. I was trying to learn from my experience with CTV and Ottawa Sun that I wanted to actually get moving. So I went to Global because Global had told me that you'll get to do news, you'll get to do sports, we'll let you cover some of the Leafs. And this is the year that Marner and Matthews, rookie season, awesome, a lot of hype in Toronto. And then what happened? Went to Global Toronto, lasted about a week because, number one, they put me in the back with all these other interns. I don't know shit about Toronto. So pitching ideas wasn't really my strong suit. And my boss at this point kind of wanted me to come up to him more often, where the last boss didn't want me. So it was a little bit of a psyche that, again, I just wasn't really comfortable with. the benefit of global, I guess, was that I didn't really hear a lot of the male locker room talk, which is good. The downfall, or I should say, I did hear a lot of dark humor, but from someone who likes dark humor, I was totally okay with it. And again, it's a reason it's called dark humor. You're only supposed to joke, laugh at it, and move on. Now, sometimes it can be very serious. Not a big deal. Again, Newfoundland just kind of goes over your head, very relaxed. Uh, but I heard a lot of female talk, female locker room talk, and I thought that was a little bit hypocritical. Um, didn't really bother me as much, but there was one time that these girls were talking about some male counterpart, or they wouldn't do this for a guy, blah blah blah, and then I kind of inputted my opinion, and the next day I was gone. So it was almost like you couldn't speak up, or it's okay for them to talk, but not okay for you to talk. And I thought, I to be honest with you, I kind of held a bit of a grudge for that, and it was just a lot of M&M time, as I call it, where you would be walking around Toronto thinking, I got screwed. You need to do something. And I was just pent up with so much frustration and anger because I kept on saying, Jesus, like, I'm not getting fair chances. I feel like I'm blowing my chances, but at the same time as I'm not getting a fair shake. So I went back to Algonquin, and I needed to do something for an internship. And it was suggested to me that, why don't you just do what you've been doing the last year and a half? And I thought, like, no, you're not doing anything. I've learned so much at Algonquin in terms of editing, producing, hosting. I want to use these skills. So I started my own podcast. We got it basically up and running within the first week or so. I was still curious of what I was going to do, how it was going to sound, and I just reached for the moon, to be honest. I reached out to Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It Anyway, Heather and Jimmy Rankin because of the whole East Coast connection stuff, the Arkells because the Junos were in Ottawa, and an email that pretty much said, hey, my name is Brian Tobin. I'm doing a podcast called Tobin Tonight. We would love to have you on to talk about your career. And sometimes people want, like, what are your stats? How long have you been doing this? And if they had to question me on that, it would have been blown up in my face because I would have been like, well, you guys are actually going to be the first ever guests. But it didn't. And they came on, and it just expanded from there. We had Peter Mansbridge, Wendy Mesley on. We are now in season 4. There have been times that I really do feel like giving it up or quitting because it's hard work. It's a lot of work to do by yourself, to edit, produce, and post it on so many platforms. And, oh man, sometimes it just feels like you're going nowhere with it. I had pitched the podcast to CBC. CBC said it was too much like their own, which I thought was a bit of a compliment and a little bit of a curse at the same time, because if you ever look at CBC podcasting, a lot of that shit it's the same. And then sometimes it's just a little bit of diversity, and I'm sorry that I am not that diverse. I'm a Newfoundlander, and a white Newfoundlander at that, so it can be tough. But, we got some amazing acts on. We've teamed with Warner Music Canada. I've battled with Warner Music Canada in some aspects of certain acts on, and, really putting it out there that sometimes the emails aren't always that great, because you could have someone saying, like, oh, I'm coming out with a new album tomorrow, and that person will tell you, yeah, I'd love to be a part of your podcast. And then you have to deal with Warner Music or a cable company, a music company that says they're really not doing anything right now, and you're like, could he be? I just talked to him. He said he was going to do the podcast. So it can be a struggle at times. But I want to say this clear. I've applied to jobs with Bell, with Rogers, with CBC, and I'm getting a lot of these rejections. I apply with a person with a disability because I am a person with a disability. You can't really see it, but if I zoom in, see this? It's a port wine stain. It's a birthmark. I was teased about it a lot in high school. I was teased about these in high school, and even growing up, of being big ears, or can you pick up a radio, or like, geez, what's that fucking red mark on your face? Honestly, if you look back at it, I think I took it well in terms that it didn't really upset me, but it does kind of label you, and it kind of, people just join in on that, and it can lead you to be a little bit depressed, a little bit kind of looking at yourself and saying, like, what's wrong with me in terms of, why, just overall, I guess a big message of why. Like, why aren't I where I'm to? Why is this not working out for me? And it can lead you down a dark path. I'll be honest, there were nights when I was in Ottawa that um, it was to the point where I wasn't getting a lot of work, and I was there was like nothing in my bank account, and I would be in my room pretty much, as silly as it sounds, crying over the fact that you couldn't afford a fucking pizza, and you were thinking to yourself, geez, like, look at all these people that were in my class or graduate with me that are doing well, and I'm just not there, and it just kind of it beat you up a little bit inside. I look at friends now friends, because again, I could get into that in a different podcast, or a different video, that were younger than me, that you always kind of felt like, geez, like, the progression should be that I get to do this stuff before they do, but that's not how life works. Some of these younger crowd that I know that are like 4 or 5 years younger than me are married with houses, with kids, with dogs, and you're, still trying to find yourself. It's sometimes it's career, sometimes it's your personality. I'll be honest, my personality, if I get to know you, it's great. If I don't really know you, I'm a little bit shy, and sometimes it can flip that I know you so well, but I'm still a little bit shy, or a little bit in my own bubble, and it's tough. But in saying that, I've probably applied to 101 jobs on Bell and Rogers, getting a lot of these emails of, you're a valued member to our team, but we're going in a different direction. And you get so frustrated with that. I'm just telling you not to give up. Things, if you're somewhat optimistic, and I know that's probably hard to see if I am optimistic from certain Facebook posts, tweets, whatnot, but if you remain optimistic, I believe good things will happen. I'm a big fan of Conan, and one of the things that Conan said in his last Tonight Show was, not everyone gets what they want, or, where they thought they were going to be. But if you work hard and you're kind, amazing things will happen. Something in that nature. I used to know it a lot better, but I don't really know it that well now. But that's kind of what I think. I'm not saying you can't call people out on their bullshit. I know some people will say, well, Jesus, be careful what you do on social media. I'm not going to tell you anything on social media because I'm brutal for social media. It just comes out because I have a voice and opinion. I think people might either agree with it or disagree with it, but I hold people accountable. And sometimes that could cost you a job in the media, but that's just me personally. Some people like it. I've actually had people come out and say, even in these jobs that are higher up, like general managers, that say, I appreciate your opinion. Again, it's all in how you word your opinion, and sometimes that's what I probably got to look a little bit more constructive at myself at, is how to word these opinions without it kind of coming across as, up yours, F off, blah, blah, more or less of, like, it's great that you do these things, but can we talk about this? Can you figure out, like, what's going on here? Maybe that's a better approach. But sometimes it's just a whole lot of anger that you just want to go like, ah! But anyway, so all I'm basically saying is that, if you don't feel like you're getting places, just take it step by step, day by day. Honestly, listen, the podcast to me has been a bit of a blessing, and again, sometimes it's really hard to do. Sometimes you're not always going to get the guests, but it is right now, that is my platform, in terms of finding jobs, in terms of sending out a demo reel, because, again, CTV Ottawa, Ottawa Sun, Global Toronto, if I just stuck with doing internships and saying to these people, like, can I hold a microphone, and they kept telling me no, I'd have nothing to show for it. So sometimes you kind of got to go out and make your own chances and do your own thing. Like right now, I can guarantee you, guarantee you that if I, at these 3 places, I would have never interviewed Colin Mockery, even if I came to them and said, I've got Colin Mockery on the phone, can I interview them? No, you're an intern. Why would you want to do that? So I kind of feel like I kind of stuck it to them in a sense of saying, you've never believed in me. You never let me hold a mic. You've never let me do anything. And now I have a podcast. Everyone has a podcast. I get that. But I have a podcast where I interviewed some top celebrities in Canada and a few in the United States. And, I'm not saying that, oh, yeah, I'm one of the top 20 Spotify or SoundCloud, but I'm getting there. I think it's amazing that we have 12.5, is it there? Yeah, like 12.5K listens on SoundCloud. Now, again, that's in 4 seasons, but if I never did anything, I wouldn't have that many listeners at all. So it's just about starting and just doing something, whether it be something minor, whether you, like, take it day by day. Don't let it really eat up a lot of your time in terms of beating yourself up about it. I mean, I talked about doing a podcast for like 2 years before I even did it. I was just constantly every day coming home and telling my roommate, Bradley, that we should do a podcast. We should do this. And it was just more like one of those running jokes of, okay, when? When are we going to do it? So just start, whether it's, day 1 coming up with a name, day 2 finding out what it's going to be about, day 3 music, like just take it step by step. Again, nothing's going to happen if you don't do things. The downfall here in terms of what I'm talking about is I want people to remain optimistic and positive, because good things happen to those who do. Again, I'm trying to learn on the fly too of being that little bit more optimistic and whatever, but I feel like a little bit of my character is to be a bit of an ass. I don't know. I kind of like it. I kind of enjoy being the heel. I'm a bit of a wrestling mark, so I kind of like being the heel. But in other words, just be optimistic within yourself. Believe in yourself. Do something like positive or something that's going to get you farther in your career. In the last few weeks, to be honest, I had people from... I've talked to someone at Sportsnet, someone at Rogers, someone at CBC. I've had contact with people at TSN. Again, it's not really going to lead you to a job in terms of what they had right now, in terms of what they were talking about. But I have these connections that if I reach out and say, hey, can you look at this for me? What do I need to do to kind of get that next step above? At least I'm on their radar, which is really cool. And something that if I ever worked with CTV, or again, when I was doing my internships, it would never happen because they'd look and say, well, what have you done? And I haven't done anything up until that point. So just keep believing, keep doing positive things, and things will happen. I believe things will happen. But anyway, that's basically my message. If you're out there listening or watching to this, or listening or watching to this, if you're out there listening or watching this, just take it a step at a time, find something that you're passionate about and stick with it. People can see your passion. I have conversations with people on the phone when I talk about disability, when I talk about my podcast. You see it, you hear it. When I do videos like this, certain topics, you will see my emotion when it comes to that stuff. But anyway, that's all I gotta say, because I don't want to go too much into this, because I feel like I'm gonna round up soon to a half hour, and a half hour rambling or half hour talking. But anyway, just stay positive, and good things will happen.